Hey guys, welcome to today's session of Art with Mrs. Cap. We're going to be looking at Japanese ukiyo-e woodblock print, but we're going to do our own version of that with styrofoam. So you're going to need a few things for this project, so let's go ahead and go over what we're going to need for today's project. So I'm using these tools. You can buy these on Amazon for like less than $10. However, you don't need these to do this. You can use a chopstick, you can use a dull pencil, or anything that has kind of a rounded tip. So you don't want a sharp pencil because it'll basically like cut the styrofoam, but you want something with kind of a dull rounded tip like these tools have. But you can use like a chopstick, like you can get from takeout. Anything that has kind of a dull, rounded tip. So obviously you don't want to use a mechanical pencil. Now you could use it with the lead in and then just use that end there, that plastic end. You don't want a sharpened pencil. So you don't want a pencil that has, a point. You want it to be one that you've used and you haven't sharpened. And so it has that dull kind of rounded point. You're going to want some paint or liquid ink. And then you're going to want a brush or a roller. If you looked ahead at the supply list and you got the supplies ahead of time, you can get a rolling, kind of like a roller brush, like a little miniature roller. You can get those from like the craft store, art section, that kind of thing. But it's not required. You can do it with, a paintbrush, or you can even do it without a paintbrush. I'm just going to use blue today to kind of keep it like true to a lot of the prints that were being made during that time, because the blue pigment was like new and popular, and so they were doing a lot of just blue toned prints. So I'm only going to be using blue. However, you can use other colors if you want to. And so you would just have to paint onto the different sections the different colors that you want. But I'm just going to do a monochromatic print in one color, okay? So I'm using blue paint. I have a paintbrush. I've got my paper. You're going to need paper to print onto. And then you're going to need either a styrofoam plate or like a styrofoam sheet that you can get from the craft store in the art section. Or you can use like a to-go box from, I'm trying to think of places that have like styrofoam. You've got like Cookout, you've got Zaxby's, you've got any of those kinds of places that have those styrofoam takeout containers. You can use those and recycle them and repurpose them for this. So I actually am using two because one I'm going to put my paint in, and the other one I'm going to actually use for the project. And then you'll probably want some scissors so that you can cut your plate out. If you're using a plate, you can cut those like edges off so that you just have a flat sheet of styrofoam. So let's go ahead and get started and move into this project. All right, so the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my styrofoam. So I'm just going to cut this rim off of the plate so that my styrofoam will lay flat. All right, so I'm gonna leave mine circular, but you can make yours square if you want to. It is completely up to you. So when you have cut out your styrofoam and you're ready to start on your project, you're gonna use whatever tool you're using, to do your designs. So I'm gonna pull out a few of these. Actually, I'm gonna pull them all out. All right, so I have these little tools that I got off of Amazon. That'll work. I mean, they work really well for this. They're made to use with like clay or anything like that. So I'm going to use these to create my designs. And the great thing is they kind of come in different, you can see there, they're different weights. I mean, there's even like really, really big ones here. That won't necessarily work as well on the styrofoam. But Traditional Japanese ukiyo-e wood block print would be done on wood, and then you would, chisel and carve out your design. We're doing a variation of that by doing styrofoam. And so we're basically going to do the same, it's the same idea. We're going to create a relief design work of art on this, that then when we apply the ink to it, it should kind of like a stamp. It should like stamp onto the paper and create that work of art. So let's go ahead and get started with that. You can do an abstract design or you can do like a landscape. Okay, it's up to you. Basically, I bend into the styrofoam. All right, you can kind of see it's leaving a mark behind. So I'm just bending into that styrofoam, kind of creating those outlines. So I'm using a thicker line for some of these outlines, but I'll go back in with some of my smaller points and add in some lighter, smaller, thinner designs. So I'm creating some rocks and an ocean kind of a scene. So I'm just putting in some like light waves in the background. And then as they get closer, they'll get bigger. So I'm doing an outline for clouds, and actually what I'm going to do for the clouds is inside it'll be pressed down, so hopefully they won't get like paint on that, so it'll stay white. Okay, so that's my plan. We'll see if that happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually use one of these bigger ones. So you may find that you have to pull a few different tools to use to get the look that you're looking for. Or get it to do what you want it to do. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of use this to... And so I'm going in a swirling pattern for this to, if it does pick up some of that paint, maybe it'll have that like impression of, clouds. All right. And when you are happy with your print, you're then going to set that to the side, and you'll get your paint or your ink ready, whatever you're going to do, and then you'll just kind of cover this. So I'm actually going to take my paint and I'm going to paint it onto this other plate. And then what I'll do is, hopefully this will work the way I think it is. I will lay this down on that ink. I will press down and kind of go around with my fingers. I'll then lift it up and I'll put it on my paper. So that's my goal. So let's go ahead and try that out. See how that turns out. All right, so for this, I'm gonna put paint down. And then I'm gonna take my brush and I'm just gonna spread that paint out, okay? All right, so when I'm happy with that, I'm gonna take my print and I'm going to press it down in here. All right, and I'll lay that down there. I'll do that. I'm gonna grab my paper and have that ready. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to press down with my fingers hopefully it's gonna pick up the paint the way I want it to. So I'm just gonna press down with my fingers. And then when I think I've applied enough pressure, and you may find out you haven't, but if I think I've applied enough pressure and I'm gonna, get it to pull up, I can just kind of go up here on that ledge. I can lift it up. Oh yeah. All right, I can lift it up. So you see I've got some ink on there, but it may not be enough. We'll try it. Let's see. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, so now that I've got that and I've got ink on it, I'm gonna lay it down on my paper. And I'm gonna apply pressure. Kind of do it in like a circular pattern. That seems to work. I'm gonna apply pressure there. And then we're gonna lift it up and see what happens. Okay, so it's not as like heavy as I would like. And the great thing about this is you can do it again. So if you're not happy with it, you can do it again, add some more paint to your thing, press it down and see what happens. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's try and do a second run of that. All right. Lay that down in there. Gonna flip. New page. And you may want to use something to kind of help you get your coverage on that. All right, so let's see how this turned out. I'll lift it up. Okay, you see we've got a lot of paint on there. And then move that to the side. And lay it down. That up, and you have your print. Okay, so you can kind of see some of these lines in here. I may have used too much paint on this time around, so it actually filled a lot of those areas with paint. But there you have a ukiyo-e Japanese style print done on styrofoam. All right, so here's the two versions of this print. So you can choose to do it the way I did it. You can also paint your ink or your paint onto your print and do different colors or whatever. So you can see this one was probably oversaturated. This one was undersaturated. So that kind of also gives you, some ideas. I kind of like the way this looks though, even though it's not like all of my design in there. I kind of like how it turned out. So again, it's completely open to you and your design. You can do something abstract. You can do a landscape that looks like a traditional ukiyo-e print, but it is completely open to you what you choose to do as a design on your styrofoam. So just make sure you keep kind of the spirit of the ukiyo-e Japanese prints, but you can do multiple colors. You can do a single color. If you want to do like that traditional blue kind of a print, that's perfectly fine too. But those are just some examples of two different, you know, methods of doing this print. But thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time on Art with Mrs. Cap. Bye.